What's going on, people? Now, tonight we're taking it to DC. We're going to talk about a DC legend. Now, this was around the time bodies was dropping left and right. So if you was a big deal around this time, you was a somebody. Michael Fray Salters, the ambassador. Now, he started off as a stick-up kid and selling heroin. Now, he would get his money and party here and there, that he would eventually start getting high off his own supply, which never ends good. Now, besides partying, he would have hobbies like boxing, which he became a good fighter. He actually could have became a boxer, but he would develop a heroin addiction. Now, from being arrested, he would shake his addiction being behind bars. Now, he was housed in jails at the age 19 because, you can't bring a gun into those jails, so his ability to fight gave him an advantage. Now, he even had a personal chair that he dared people to sit in, but they didn't even try him. Now, being locked up, he developed a relationship with guys all over DC, which caused him to settle multiple beef and deadly wars throughout DC. While behind bars, he met a guy named Michael Jackson. And no, I'm not talking about the pop star, but pay attention to that name because he plays a big role into this story. Now, once Fray came home, he was fronted some work and he never looked back. Now, dog food was his source of income, and he was doing his thing uptown DC. He started to develop eyes and ears everywhere. He kept in contact with the guys he met in jail from different parts of DC. Now, that was a very smart move from him. He knew that's how you become powerful. Now, one day his girlfriend designer purse was snatched by a hoodlum. Hours later, the guy's body was found near an alleyway. Now, Fray would be arrested for the murder, but he would eventually beat the case due to lack of evidence. But time after he was arrested in Jersey and continued to run his operation from behind bars, he added PCP to the hustle, receiving it from a connect in Cali. By this time, he expanded to Northwest. Now, entering the 80s, he was at Kingpin status. He started to attract more and more attention. Wayne Perry once approached him, offering to be his enforcer, but he declined. Now, Fray wanted to let it be known that he was heavy, so he went out and bought a $200,000 gold pendant. Now, let me remind you, this is the early 80s. Let me know in the comments on what you think how much $200,000 is in the 80s in today's money. But his wife hated looking at that chain. He once wore it to a boxing fight. She wanted him to get out the game, but he wasn't having it. In that lifestyle, you have to make sacrifices, and you could lose people that you love the most. His wife basically gave him the choice of choosing the drug game or his family. He picked the drug game. By the mid-80s, he was selling everything under the sun. He had bricks, wet, dog food, everything was on the menu, and he had millions coming in. The more money that came, the more power. With the relationships he developed and his ability to put an end to the problems within the city looked at him as an ambassador. He was about the home turf and guys sticking together. Now, there was a situation in a nightclub where one of Rayful Edmonds' men was getting beat on. So he pulls out a gun. With everyone running, he sees Fray's and points the gun at him. And Fray questioned what he was doing with it. The next morning, Fray was issued an apology, and Rayful sent Fray money and gifts to keep Fray on his good side. Now, there was another time when Fray was grazed in a parking lot shootout involving one of Rayful's men. Now, Rayful would find out, and he would give Fray $200K in a brand new car. And I think it was like a Range Rover or something. But anyway, there was a basketball player named Len Bias that Fray was close to. Now, he tried to keep Bias on the right path, as Bias was about to be drafted to the Boston Celtics. Now, some say he would have been better than Jordan, but I doubt it. Now, Len Bias would pass away from a drug overdose, and Fray was so upset he wanted revenge on whoever sold him the junk. Now, during the late 80s, guys from out of town would make their way to DC to make money. Some would last, some would leave in a body bag. Them DC cats was very territorial. They didn't even let guys from the same city get money on their street, so it was a big no-no for out-of-towners. When Alpo came to town, Fray kept hearing his name. He heard he was a guy from New York. Fray had some friends in New York, so he asked about Poe and didn't like what he heard at all. He didn't think having Alpo there was good for the city, and he let him know he wasn't welcome. Now, some say Fray was taking bricks from Alpo. Now, I don't believe in it. Here's why. Alpo didn't know Fray, so why would he front someone 10 bricks that he didn't even know? Now, welcome to Members Only, where you have to use your brain. But Alpo and Fray did not like each other. They wasn't feeling each other at all. And that's something we all know. Now, Fray heard about the murders with Alpo having guys from DC turn on each other. He wasn't big on the outsider coming to the city causing all of that and making money on top of that. Lots of it. Fray felt like that was his money. Now, if they did have hits on each other, they wasn't going to get the drop. Fray had so many men around him, and Alpo was moving like a vampire. But Alpo would pull a chess move. He knew the only way to get to Fray was through Michael Jackson. Now, Michael Jackson was the opportunist. He didn't pick sides. It was more of whoever had the bigger bag. See, Michael Jackson was fronted by Fray, so he had to eventually pay him his money. Alpo offered Jackson half a brick and $9 grand to take out Fray. Now, Alpo's offer was a win for Jackson, not only because he was getting $9,000 and half a brick, but he could keep the money that was owed. So, July 16, 1991, Jackson would set up a meeting with Fray. Now, while Fray was sitting in the car, Jackson would pump him with 6 bullets, and it was a successful hit. He would go on to lie and say Wayne Perry had something to do with it. That was the type of guy Jackson was. But the game ain't fair, people. Either you play by the rules or you don't. You must stay on it 100% of the time. Because let me tell you one thing. It's always the time that you decide to not bring your gun, the time you decide to go alone, the time when you go against your own rules. Let's get these likes up, hit the comments, subscribe, and turn your notifications on. Thanks for watching. I'm out.